locators come in. For today's demo and throughout this series on locators, we will be using a simple HTML file hosted here on my machine, the local machine. So this will allow me to have full control over the elements and their attributes, and so that thereby making our examples perfectly clear. So what are locators? So you see various elements on this page like buttons, edit fields, password. So how does Playwright locate these elements? So it does by using the locator addresses. Each locator is nothing but a unique address. Think of locators as unique address for each and every element on your web page. So without them, Playwright will not know which button to click or which text field to fill. So choosing the right locator is very important for writing strong, clear, and easy to manage automation tests. So if you have a bad locator in your code, that will easily break your test. And if there is any changes on the page accidentally, that will break the test. So a well chosen locator will make your test more reliable and simple to understand and less flaky. So in this first part, we are going to take a look at the Playwright's best way to find the elements, the user-facing locators. These are the ones that find elements based on how a real user would see and interact. So that makes the test much more stable because they are less likely to break if the page's hidden code changes. Let's say a developer changes the HTML code as we see here, the ID or any class property. The test will still run fine because you have chosen you have decided to pick a well-defined locator. So let's see, for example, let's take a look at so when you choose, so in the first part we are going to focus on Playwright's best way to find elements on the page, which is the user facing locators. So these are the locators, these are the ones that are used to find elements based on how a user would find an element on the page. Let's say you are browsing this page, you want to look for a button, so you see there are buttons. So in the same way, these user facing locators will help Playwright to identify the button based on how a real human being will identify. So this will make the test more stable. So the test might see a button is there. It doesn't need to worry about whether the HTML ID of this button changed or even the name changed. It can even detect the button simply by the user facing locators. So let's see what it is. So let's go back to our code, and we have a demo Playwright script here. And the most recommended way to identify any element on the page is getByRole. This is the Playwright's most recommended best choice, and this is always the good start. And you should always start here using this method page.getByRole. So think of it like a label for what an element is on a web page, in the same way that helps people find a page using assistive technology. So what is getByRole? getByRole is nothing but the ARIA role. So what is ARIA role? Think of it like a label for what an element is on a web page. Let's say you have a submit form, and you can see the HTML source code here, and we have defined the ARIA role equal to button. So this is a label. So this says what this element is. This element is a button, and we have given the ARIA role on for this. So what is ARIA role? It is mainly used for accessibility purposes. So this page is more accessible, and that's an accessible name. So this helps people with assistive technologies like screen reader, right? For example, a button is a button, a text box is a text box. and the link is a link. And so ARIA role tells the browser its true purpose. This makes also your test more like how a real person would use your site, and also helps your test more stable and good for accessibility. So you have here for our demo, first demo, we have a button called submit button, and there is a username input, and you see there is a role for this button, ARIA role, and you can see here there is a user input, and you see there is a label for this ARIA label username, and the same for password, ARIA label password. So these are accessibility things for assistive technologies, like I said, like the screen readers. So when they pass these HTML tree, they look at it from an accessibility point of view. So that's the true purpose of ARIA. And in our Playwright case, it actually uses this to understand what the element is. So it makes the test more stable, and it looks at the web page just how a real person would look at the site. And it is obviously good for accessibility. So we have this submit button and the username. So let's see how you can interact, how you can make your Playwright test interact with this submit form and the username. And let's go back to our test, and you can see here I have the I have the page dot get by role. So this, what it means is it gets by role. And what is the role name? Button. And which we have seen here, the role button. So what it does is it tells the Playwright, go and look for a role named button. There may be many buttons on the page, right? But how do you know to click the submit form? That's where we give the additional property where the name is submit form. So what it does, it looks like a real user. It goes and looks at the page. When you say get by role, it looks at button, role, the ARIA role, and then it searches for the button with the name submit form. It actually locates instead of saying searches. So these are locators. So when you do this get by role, it actually locates a button with the name submit form. So that's as simple as that. Once it finds a button, we store that in this const, and as I said in the previous video, we have the await asynchronous wait for every code in the Playwright. So now we have located the button, and now we can perform the click operation on the element. And the pause is just for the demo purpose. So when I run the test will stop here, so we can see actually it clicked the button. And once we click the button, we also make an assertion here that the submit form button form submitted successfully message displays. So this is a text on the page, right? So we have another method. So the next one I'm going to show you is getByText. This is another way of locating elements that contain a given text. So as you can see here, the getByText locates this text, and we want to make sure that this text is visible on the page when the user or when the test clicks on the submit button. So if I refresh the page and I click the button, and we see the submit form message displayed. So you can see here the message. So we are asking the Playwright test to search for this text on the page, and it makes sure that it is visible. So that's the verification. So this is very simple and direct. It just finds an element by the visible text content. So any text on the page you want to check, you can just give the name, and it goes and makes sure that the element is visible or not visible, as your test may need such a requirement. And let's go to the next demo where I have this code, and let me copy. This is the local file running in my machine, and I have the demo code for the next feature I'm going to explain, and this is a sample script, so let me put this the right URL. And what about this demo script? So here it is actually opening the same page, and here it clicks a link by its text. So it goes to the demo URL, and I will pass the test, and then it clicks the login here. And before we look at this, let's run the previous demo and see how it runs. So this is a command. So my test is named demo.spec.test. So I'm going to use this command npx playwright test demo spec demo1.spec.ts, and I'm going to ask it to run using the Chrome browser, and at the end we want to see the report. So let's run it, and let me move my screen, and this is my local server that serves this file. So you can see the Playwright, it submits the form, it clicks on the button and we see the message, and it checks the message. And I have added a pause statement on the script, as you can see here. So the Playwright inspector now displays to us because I have added a pause, so I can tell you, I can stop and show you what's happening. So these two lines are executed. As you can see, the button has been clicked and the message form submitted successfully is visible on the page, and it's going to check that when I resume the test. So here, see here the resume button. So it's resumed. When I resume it, it's going to check the text is displayed, is visible on the page, and it's going to go to the next test, and it's going to get the text box by role name, and it is going to find the text box with the name, username, and it's going to fill that input field with the text Playwright user. And before I continue with the test, let's take a quick look at the text box username. So when I spy on this input field, we can see here that the ID doesn't matter. We have an ARIA label username. So when we go to the test, we see that the ARIA label, when we say getByRole, there is a role with a name and with a type text box. So it is a text box input tag. So it type equal to text and the placeholder, enter your username. So it fills the thing, and then it checks that the page, that again the same element that we have here, it again goes into the input field and checks that we have the entered text is present there. In other words, the input field is now has the value of the text that we filled in the previous step. And then it comes to the pause button here. So let's resume the test and then see how it interacts and fills this input field for the username. So it actually opened the session again, and it typed the text in the input field, and the pause button is in my another monitor. Let me bring it here. So you can see here the test again stopped here. So you can see it filled the right text, and then it verified that the input field is indeed has the text entered by the user or the Playwright. So when I continue the test, it closes the browser, and then when we return back to the Visual Code, we can actually run this command to see the report. And we can see that our Playwright report shows that our click worked fine and filling the username and expecting to have that value passed. So all our tests ran fine. So that's the demo 1, and when we go to the next, we can go to the demo 2, where I have this code I can replace this code and replace the URL. So what does this test do? It again goes to the same URL, and I'm going to pause the test to show you. And what it does is actually gets this login here. It locates the element by text. What is the text at which it is using to locate the element is login here. Login here is the text shown on the page, and here the text is, as you can see here, the link has the text login here. So once it finds the text, what it does a click operation on the text. Again, you can see how easy it is to locate a link using just the text. So even if tomorrow a developer changes the HTML ID of this link, or the link might be moved to a different div element, or it is moved somewhere near, all we need to do is know the name of this link, and Playwright will reliably find it and do a click operation. And you have seen in the previous code, the expect lines are where you actually do the verification. So after you click the login button, login here link, it should scroll back to the top of the page. And that's what we are doing here. So let's look at the next test. It goes to the URL, the same URL, and then it checks for this text on the page to be visible, because remember, when we click this link, it takes us to the top of the page. So I'm going to click this link, and there you see the detailed project is actually below this link. So it's just checking that the text is visible on the page. So you can see how getByText works in many ways here. As long as you know the text on the page, it's very useful to do a click operation or to check the visible text on the page. So that's how simple and easy. And remember, this getByText is great for finding links, hyperlink, as we saw here, or you can find the button with the text or any other text that you see on the page. And this text is not case sensitive by default, and handles extra spaces automatically. So that's what we saw in this demo. And you can also use regular expression, and if you need exact matching, including capability, the matching capability. So when you say getByText, and when you hover over the mouse, it says, and there is a regular except option here, and you can say exact equal to true, and I will explain you. And you can see the documentation here. You can go to the documentation and get more information, but yeah, it is case insensitive by default, but you can make it case sensitive, and you can see here. And this is exactly the example. So if you want to add your text to be case sensitive, all you need to do is put a comma here and then add this property. And that's it. So if tomorrow something happens and this uppercase P becomes lowercase, this test will fail, because we have made the case sensitivity true. So had we not have this exact equal to true, then this test would have passed, because it is case insensitive by default. So moving on to the next demo, where I am going to explain you the next locator in Playwright, and it's called getByLabel. So let's look at the code that I have for this, and let's replace the URL with the actual valid URL. And by the way, this URL is served by the npm command, and I can explain you in another video, but let's move on to the demo 3. And here you can see this code again goes to the same page, but here I want to explain what is the new way to identify a locator in Playwright, and that is called getByLabel. And you can see, as the name suggests, getByLabel is the ARIA labeled by element, the ARIA label. And here you can see the example code here. The ARIA label for the username is username. So in our test we have the page with the email address. So let's spy on it. So we have the email address here with the ID email field, and when we run this test, what it actually does is it gets this email address label. So that's what the label the user sees on the page. So each input field has a label. The email address input field has the label email address, the password has a password, confirm password. So you can see here the HTML ID, and you can see the highlighted label. So here we have the label HTML tag, and the same goes for the confirm password. So any input field, the tag here is the label, and when you say getByLabel, it goes to this label property and finds a label with a name, email address. And then what it does, the operation is fill operation. That means it's typing this text email address in the field, and then I will pause the test to show you the email being typed. In the same way, it gets the confirm password label, and then it types the value in the field, the password field. And the same way, after typing, we can usually use the same locator now to check that the data entered is still there in the input field for the email address. So that's an assertion. So you see, we can see how this test is going to run now. So we can see it in action. So let me run this code. It will open the Chrome browser, and so the first thing it did is the test has paused, and let's see what line it executed. So it just went to the demo URL, so I'm going to resume it. So the next action it's going to do is fill in the email address. So it actually went here and it filled the email address, and it stopped. So let's resume. So its next step is it's going to type the password. So again it typed the password, and then finally it's going to check that the email address that we entered is there in the input text input field. So let's run it, and you can see the status here. All the test steps are getting passed one by one, and it says how long it took to run each step, and again the test is passed. So you see how this another feature of Playwright, the Playwright Inspector, helps you even pause your test at a particular step and see what's going on. So giving you more control. So our test has finished running, and again we can run this command to see the report. And we have the test report here, all the steps passed. So this is a built-in report, and we installed it. So that is getByLabel. And for the another demo, I'm going to show you a different way to locate elements, and that is called the getByPlaceholder. So let me copy the code for this demo and explain you what is happening in the script. So this is our demo, same demo URL, and here it's going to the URL, and then it is going to find the search products, the placeholder, and it's going to fill in this text Playwright automation. So search products is an input. So you see here there are input field with the default, this is called the shadow text, or whatever you call this text, the helper text here. So when you clear this, it will again show so the user knows what to do with this field. So this is a field to type your name. So here, so that is how. So when I right click and do an inspect, and you see the placeholder tag, and it says placeholder equals search products dot dot dot. So what Playwright, when you say page dot get by placeholder, it goes and finds the placeholder tag and with a name, search products, and fills in. So you can see how we are not, so how we are handling this locators. We are not depending on a class or a tag or a HTML ID or any other XPath or anything which is not that reliable when compared to having a placeholder with a name. So this makes our test more stable. So it fills the text, and then it checks that the text that the test typed is present. So let's run this test and see. So it opens the browser, and then it will come to a halt because we have a pause button. So let me continue. So it's going to type in the Playwright text in the placeholder. So if I scroll down a little bit, you see it has already typed the Playwright automation, and if I continue, it's going to check that the text entered is really there, and that's the end of the test, and it passed. So that's all I want to show you in this video. So there you have it, guys. In the first part of the locators series, we have explored the most important user-facing locators: getByRole, getByText, and getByLabel, and getByPlaceholder. So these are the popular ones, and these are the first and the best choices for writing robust and reliable Playwright test, because they focus on how users truly interact with your web application. So in our next video, Playwright Locators Part 2, we will dive into other valuable user-facing locators like getByAltText and getByTitle, and we will also explore the getByTestID, and we will also introduce the very powerful getByTestID, which is a very interesting thing, and it is used for situations where visual elements do not give us enough information. So we will also start looking at more traditional CSS selectors. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss part 2, and leave any questions you have in the comments below. See you in the next one.